Blessings. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to see you. Let's just take a moment to connect to our experience that we're having right now, as is our tradition here in our Sangha. So just taking a moment. Blessings. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to see you. Let's I have to laugh. I keep doing that because I'm doing YouTube. And then if I don't do something, and then when it starts to go, because there's a little bit of a delay, it comes in through my computer. So let's just take a few moments to arrive. And there's a way in which the practice is alive in your body. And so in some ways, just coming together in this way, kind of start to click into like, oh yeah, this is my practice. Noticing what is being experienced in your body. I don't want to rush. So taking a few moments to tune into what you're noticing in the body. What your energy level is like. How present do you feel? How is it to arrive here together in this way? And what is your intention? What is it that you're most wanting to feel or receive? The topic today is on, it's called No Time to Rush. And I took that from a Tara Brach talk where she talked about somebody who had knew they had a limited time to live. And given that information, they had no time to rush. That was like a big, piece of in their lives and wisdom, right? So no time to rush. And we're going to be dissolving restlessness and worry. So if there's an intention here that you have around our topic, that would make sense. But just tapping in, noticing what it is that you're most wanting to feel. You keep it to feeling, because receive sometimes can be a little too conceptual. So what is it that you're wanting to feel? We'll take a deep breath in. Hold at the top of our inhale, sip in a little bit more. Hold. Let it go. Stay with me. Deep breath in. Hold, sip in a little bit more. Then let it go. And one more like that. If your eyes were closed, letting them open slowly. letting your head lift. And taking in your space. Looking over both shoulders. And then we'll orient to each other. So go ahead and put your intention in the chat. Right, the practice has already begun. Good. Intention for settling and calmness. Thanks, Anna. Julie, money and flow. Ruth, become more centered. I can be so scattered in my mind. And Julie, stillness. Good. Candace, stillness. Hi, welcome, Alex. Stability and gratitude. Yeah, good, good. So already I'm slowing, right? Like we're slowing way down. Something that doesn't feel, I think it's both relieving, but can also be uncomfortable. When we have a lot of conditioning towards spending a lot of time in restlessness and worry. Marilyn, my intention is calm and trust. Been feeling exhausted by the heat. Yeah, good. And dealing with some anxiety and hypervigilance. Good. I'm glad you're here. Anna, Marilyn, feel the same. Yeah, good. I love it. It's like we're all so different, but then like we're all, so alike in some of the foundational ways, especially when we're talking about how we want to feel. It's nice when other people say something and we can relate to it, and it gives more depth to our own experience, because so much of the path to peace is seeing. Another way of thinking about it, if we're talking about the practice, is naming, acknowledging, tending to. And this is so much a part of what we'll be exploring today. I pull up my notes. Give yourself and us, like the Sangha, the benefit of your undivided attention. Just like you would if you came and we were all sitting together in a group. It's even more important, I feel like, because it's just, there's more between us when we're meeting in this way. So it's really important. I just want everyone to be mindful of the container. Here are my notes. As I unpack the talk, just a reminder of, let yourself receive whatever there is that's here for you to receive. You don't have to concentrate or anything like that. You don't have to try to understand. This is a rare opportunity for you to rest. And also, in some ways, right, the Dharma, the teachings, there's a way like we're receiving. In my experience, it's like I receive it's like a nourishment, like a food or something. This is what practice gives us. And so let yourself have it, let yourself just be here. And everything else will take care of itself. Kaveri Patel captures so well. The experience of restlessness in the body and the mind. She says, there is a monkey in my mind swinging from branch to branch and tree to tree, never standing still. Sometimes I want to kill that monkey, shoot it square between the eyes so I won't have to feel the pain of worry. But today, I thanked her. And she jumped down straight into my lap, trapeze still swinging, while we sat still. And as I unpack more of this, really listen from your body. And so encouraging here a softening with your body. And an opening to this being more than just something to distract your attention, like we might listen to a podcast or something. So restlessness and worry are part of the hindrances. We talked about hindrances, we talk about hindrances because they're the, I love to, this is one of the things I love about this practice is it's so honest. Because there's whole, schools of thought and faith that sell kind of like a no hindrance kind of a gig, as if there can be an experience of being human without greed or sensual desire, anger, ill will, or sloth and torpor, which are the other hindrances, and doubt. But practice, and it's like the Dharma, it's like, no, we're just telling it, not just telling it like it is, but also pointing to the fact that when we're really with how it is, there's a natural ease and peace and wholeness that becomes available. There's a depth of being and an experience of being that we're really hungry for. And we start to sense that there's a satisfaction available. And so right off the bat, we're just sort of like noticing the ways in which we might have just aversion towards uncomfortable heart-mind states. I mean, it's human to experience kind of aversion whenever something that's arising feels uncomfortable. So as I was saying before, sloth, torpor. I learned something interesting as I was preparing for this today. That the language of the Buddha, which was in Pali, was translated in the Victorian era. And so a lot of the languaging is very formal and flowery, sort of, but formal, right? And so I liked knowing that. I didn't know that. So sloth and torpor, sensual desire, anger or ill will, and doubt are the other hindrances. And when they're arising and we don't notice them, then they distract us from knowing that we're more than enough. They distract us from our own capacity to see and know, to see clearly. And so when we do notice them, and that's why meditation is so great, like why we practice meditation, why it's really good to have a daily meditation practice, why it's really good to sit retreat, because what you start to notice when in your practice more clearly than in the busyness of daily life is that these heart-mind states or these hindrances, they arise impersonally. They arise because certain conditions have come together. And there you get sensual desire, for example. These certain things come together and sensual desire will arise for me, for example, because of my conditioning. So just knowing about these things conceptually, obviously, isn't enough. But practice allows us, and part of why we talk about it is because it helps us have a clearer sight. It helps us in our meditation practice or in everyday life. We might have an insight about our own restlessness and worry and how it operates. And that arising, that insight, it came up because of the practice that happened beforehand. So we want to remember that the arising of the hindrances is inevitable. And also we want to remember that we've been conditioned to judge ourselves and others. Like when laziness arises, which is sloth and torpor, but not, lazy is less formal. Sleepiness is another way people will describe it, especially like on retreat. And a question will be, am I really just tired? Am I really exhausted? Or am I in kind of a hindrance of sleepiness? Or that's a version of sloth and torpor. Oh, sorry. Oh, she startled me. But think about all of the conditioning that we have just, around laziness, for example. And, how we judge ourselves, say if we feel slow and lethargic and sleepy for no good reason at all. And like, if we just were like, oh yeah, this is like, wow, yeah, I have this is passing through me. Maybe I need to rest or lie down or whatever. I can take care of it. It will pass. But we don't do that, do we? There can be a lot of inner judgment about, say, our lack of feeling like being productive. It's like, we're probably really productive, maybe, but we're definitely busy if we hang out a lot in restlessness and worry. And so, if we're hanging out a lot in restlessness and worry, similar to if we were feeling, slow and lethargic and sleepy, if we've got a lot of judgment around it, we think like somehow maybe we're not doing our practice good enough, then we can't work with it. We can't see through them. So for example, if we're not watching laziness, it can turn into a lot of self-criticism, right? About how bad a person you are because you weren't productive. Or like I can relate to this for sure. You'll skip your evening walk, even though it's probably just what your stagnation needs. And when we take the hindrances impersonally, we have more choice about how to respond. And when we're taking them personally, as I was saying earlier, our response is narrow, but this part is important. Our response is narrow because we're spending a lot of energy. We're spending a lot of energy trying to keep ourselves from feeling the often unpleasant sensations and thoughts that make up these conditioned heart-mind states that are happening on their own, that we can't prevent. That's why practice too is so valuable, especially if you can stack. That's why retreat is so helpful, because you stack, right? Like sits on top of each other. It's walking and sitting meditation. And so your attention has this opportunity to collect, and you can really watch it arise. And you can sense and notice you don't choose to be all strung out and anxious at 5 p.m. It just arose. You were just sitting there. Nothing outside you was happening. It just came up. So this hindrance of restlessness and worry is a familiar barrier to peace in my own practice. I've shared this with you before. You can probably relate. When I was in elementary school, I had this brilliant strategy of worrying. And now I look back and I realize what it did was it gave me a feeling of control, because I felt chronically unsafe. So like I had chronic headaches, and those became fuel for worry that I had a brain tumor. Like I remember that clear as day. I was just completely convinced I had a brain tumor. It's horrible, because, but it was a distraction from the worst fear, that was kind of under the surface of, that deep level of unsafe. And if worry, I could talk about too. So there was some way in which it gave me some control over that. Or like when I was in elementary school, I used to worry about getting beat up at lunch. So there was I won't say their whole name, but it was Shane, was my bully. And I mean, I think back, I'm like, man, that was some scary stuff. A lot of compassion for that little kid, because I was so scared all the time she was going to kick my ass, because that's what she threatened she would do. And all the time. And so I learned to stay in at lunch and read and, write and, all of these things. And that's just an example of how that refuge might get kind of really hardened and really strong. Some of us can really relate to having more experience with some hindrances than others. Or you notice the way they play around with each other. If I'm not noticing my restlessness and worry, then sensual desire, right? Relief from that restlessness and worry often comes in the form of a body, like wanting some form of sensual desire as a way to come into the body and as a way to find relief. So you can definitely have what they call hindrance attacks. So last week we talked about the 3 aspects of mind and Zen practice, and you can watch that video on YouTube. Parental or elder mind, joy mind, and we touched on big mind. So when we explore the hindrances, we're accessing the capacities of big mind. This is from Gil Fonsdale, and I've mentioned him before. This is from his, he did a piece on, for Insight Meditation Center called The Hindrance of Restlessness and Worry. And so this was a talk he did, and I'm taking this directly from that. His words: the Buddhist word translated as restlessness is udhaka, meaning to shake. It is a state of agitation and overexcitement. Some people live restless lives. Constant activity can channel the restlessness at the expense of neither confronting it nor settling it. Because restlessness is uncomfortable, it can be difficult to pay attention to. Paradoxically, restlessness is itself sometimes a symptom of not being able to be present for discomfort. Patience, discipline, and courage are needed to sit still and face it. Let me read that part again. Restlessness is itself sometimes a symptom of not being able to be present for discomfort. Worry is so much a head-centered activity. We get caught there easily when we're dealing with this because we don't want to be in our bodies with the feeling. That was my little addition, but I'm going to come back to Gil's words. When physical restlessness may appear as compulsive energy bouncing throughout the body, we can't get comfortable. There may be incessant impulses to fidget or even to bolt. It can also appear as shakiness or agitated vulnerability, as when we have had too much caffeine. When mental restlessness can manifest as scattered or persistent thinking, it is when mental restlessness can manifest as scattered or persistent thinking. It is present whenever we are caught in distraction. There may be an inability to focus. The mind recoils from being directed anywhere, or it jumps from one thing to the next, incapable of settling. This is sometimes called monkey mind, as a swinging monkey grasps one branch and immediately reaches for the next. So the restless mind focuses on one thing and immediately reaches out for the next, never satisfied with anything. And that's the end of that little piece. Just want to take a few breaths to let you digest a little bit. A little bit more here. Worry can be nagging, persistent, underground preoccupation with how we're viewed, how we measure up, how what we say is interpreted. We analyze our text messages and others for tone. We are preoccupied with how we're thought of. And I want to mention here that there is a certain amount, right, of like good fortune and privilege in being worried about things like that and not worried about your rent or, your next meal. what we say is interpret. So, given like this is a particular kind of problem, but I know the problem well. So I wanted to go a little deeper on this, the worry part. We analyze our text messages and others for tone. We are preoccupied with how we're thought of. We don't know how we feel. We are concerned about future outcomes. So one of the gateways into getting to know this one is by sensing when we feel rushed. So if we feel rushed on the regular, I mean, welcome, right? Welcome to our everyday life. I mean, it's like, it's very tied to our sense of value and worth. It seems like we're getting busier and busier. And the slower rhythmic pace we tend to prefer when we're experiencing more peace, it's less and less available in our modern Western world. That's why retreat and sitting practice can feel so restorative, and also why we resist it so much. So when we look closely, we see that the energy of restlessness that fuels our rushing, it needs to be digested. Now there's a part of us that intuits this. And that's why, right, you're here. So how do we digest it so we aren't run by it? I've pointed to meditation several times in this talk, and we're turning towards that now. I'm going to say a few more things, and then I'll guide us in a practice. I like to mention that these are freely offered, and your donation really, really makes a difference. You can Venmo or PayPal or Zelle me. And yeah, I really appreciate it. If you want to have, if you want to sit, do a day long with me, if you haven't already signed up for it, we have space. So
I signed up already.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
Yeah, I got yours. Thanks, love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So let's, get yourself, you're already probably gotten a little more comfortable in your body. As we talk about how we digest this energy so we aren't run by it. You know what it just occurred to me? When we think about the hindrances in the body, right, and how it shows up in the body, like sloth, right? We think of a sloth, the slowness of a sloth. And then I was thinking about anger. Like some hindrances really show up in the body, like more than the mind. Restlessness and worry is so much a mental thing. But say anger, right? If we, get caught there a lot, and I think about fighting, right? And like using your body to fight, anger is more of this kind of like body feeling when we're caught in it. We really can feel it in the body. It really brings us into our bodies. Unlike restlessness and worry, which can really keep us up in the head. So we come home to our bodies and we cozy up. We cozy up to the ick, like it's restlessness is ick. I don't like it, you don't like it. But it's the same as excitement, which is also kind of ick. I don't like the feeling of being excited either, but this is also a restless energy. Some of us get addicted to the energy of excitement. And that can that can create a lot of problems in our life. Adrenaline junkies, but also, busybodies. If we have a hard time sitting still, we're in good company. So when we don't acclimatize to restlessness, we don't get curious about it and open to catching it, we're fighting it, and we keep on staying busy, right? Not being really intimate with anything. When we're really busy all the time, we overschedule. We don't give ourselves enough time. We are like weirded out by space on the calendar. And no judgment here, I can relate. We know that we're in some way afraid of the presence. We're trying to not be here. We don't want to be intimate with this moment. So we acclimatize to the discomfort of shifting our conditioned response when this energy is arising, rather than, going a million miles a minute, feeling like we're rushing all the time. We're always going, it's always like, what's next, what's next, what's next? And it's always going to hell in a handbasket. Or it's the best thing in the world, it's like, this is excitable energy. So we acclimatize to the edginess, and rather than fighting it, we get curious about it. We get open to catching it, being with it. We get really interested in softening with tension. As we practice together here, arriving even more into our bodies, letting yourself let go of the talk. And turning towards the feeling of breath in our bodies. And whatever kind of remnants or residue of restlessness we might notice in our bodies now. We're interested in it, and we're softening with it. We don't need to run from it by staying busy. Even in the mind, kind of thinking things through, or distracting ourselves, or ruminating. Through our practice together, we remember we're stronger. We're stronger than that. We have a confidence in our capacity to soften with. Softening with our breath. In our bodies, noticing the way inhale kind of moves the bones and puffs the body out a bit, and exhale settles. Climatizing towards preferring the subtlety of this expansion, spaciousness of the in-breath and settling of the out-breath. Being soothed by this rhythm as we feel it. The closer awareness is to the bone, less scattered and wordy things seem. So as much as we're training in staying with the somatic markers of inhale and exhale in the body, we're also noticing that it's really natural and native for this heart mind to get caught in some complex thing that happens outside of the body. So we're really open to noticing when we're more with the imaginary world than with the felt sense of being breathed. Then we just rest as long as we can rest with the body and the breath. We go off somewhere, and we just come back to the body and the breath. This is the attitude of grace. Not pushing awareness down, but just letting it sink. Let you to your own practice now with this, and I'll be quiet. We might notice the subtle or not so subtle ways in with which restlessness is with us now. You might be curious, is it like all over my body? Is there tightness in my throat or my gut or my chest or fluttering? What does it feel like to soften with whatever I sense might be restlessness in my body? If it's a unpleasant experience, it's good to bring, a hand to the body somewhere and just tend. To just recognize that this that it's hard, it's hard to have this feeling sometimes. We can get curious about this feeling and notice how solid is it, or does it seem to sort of change a lot or slightly as we bring care to it? Maybe it gets bigger, maybe it gets smaller, maybe it moves, but it doesn't stay the same. And however it is, it's okay to feel this way. It can be a nice reminder from elder mind. What's it like to soften with this, to make a little more space by softening the body? There is a monkey in my mind, swinging from branch to branch and tree to tree, never standing still. Sometimes I want to kill that monkey, shoot it square between the eyes so I won't have to feel the pain of worry. But today I thanked her, and she jumped down straight into my lap, trapeze still swinging as we sat still. It's so good as we arrive again. To allow the sort of cultivated slowness to be used up, right? Like it's like you cultivated a certain amount of something of stillness or calmness. You put a little in the bank, so to speak, and you can sense that part of working with this is around slowing down and simplifying, working with that uncomfortable energy rather than just running with it, letting it run the show. And noticing how that gives us a different sense of agency. And, you know, for me, it's like the word liberation comes to mind. When I'm not run by this, so much more of me and my life opens up. Thank you so much for your practice. Please put in the chat a takeaway from our sit. With this type of energy, if we're noticing a lot of it, you might already intuit this, but movement can be really helpful. As a matter of fact, it's like, it's essential. I have a lot of this energy, just, you know, it's just kind of been in me for as long as I can remember. And yeah, so movement's a staple and might not, you know, I mean, rigorous movement, sweating, got to move my body. And so, you know, and when I go on retreat, like I'll hike twice a day so that I can really settle into my body. So movement might be, you know, good medicine for you as well. But then there's also these other aspects that are so good, that are easier to work with when the body is more settled. Anna, slowing down and simplify meditation. Yeah, thank you, Karina. Really feeling the slowing down. I know, right? Like I just I paused because I want to speed up. Go, go, go. Yeah. Yes, I'm in here with you, Sangha. Thank you, Karina. Really feeling the slowing down as an intention, and also thinking the monkey mind, right? Yeah, the mind, the thoughts, our thinking mind are always reflections of what's happening in the body, closer to the bone as forms of tension patterns, right? Just think about the kinds of thoughts you have when you first meet someone and you know, fall in infatuation with them. The worry, you know, it's not the worried. Where's the worried mind then? You know, the worried mind, or thinking about when you're like on retreat or when you're really relaxed, you're not worried. There's the absence of that reflection of the mind. So the residue of the inner experience, when it's discharged, colors are thinking. And so that's why worry thoughts. And we relate them to that feeling of restlessness. So it's good to think the monkey mind. Of course, you're going to have a monkey mind whenever restlessness is arising. And we don't cause it, just arises. But we can create more and more conditions that help us create space. That is within our, you know, how fast we go is often, unless we have a job where that's not the case, you know, which is true for some lines of work. But when we, you know, like a lot of times we rush, we heedlessly and needlessly rush. Yeah, Alex, softening towards the monkey line. Good. Yeah, I love that takeaway. All right. Thanks for sitting with me. I'll be back next week, and be well. Be well. And I encourage this into your practice today and for the rest of the week. And I'll see you. I'll see you next time I see you. You take yourself off mute. Say your goodbyes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Alex. Bye,
Bye.
Candace. Bye,
Bye.
Ruth. Bye, Anna. Bye, Marilyn.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a